This is for you guys. I'm going to ask a couple of questions first to, have a little bit of a direction in this conversation, and then Jules will walk around. Just put your hand in the air and you can ask your question. Is there something that you definitely don't want to go, like not that subject,
No,
don't want to
it's
go
not.
there? Okay, good. Okay, let's start.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's really interesting to see that where you are born, in Whitesboro, New Jersey, if I'm correct, it's founded in 1901 by George Henry White.
Absolutely.
Yes. And for the people that don't know it, it's a community that was founded to create a self-reliant community for African American people, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have no clue how it is to be born and raised and grow up in that time in such a community. But one thing is for sure, it would definitely not all be like rainbows and sunshine, but the underlying energy must have been empowering there. So how did being born and raised in Whitesboro, New Jersey, impact the rest of your life?
That's a great question. Um, it impacted my life because we got a chance to be loved.
Hmm.
We've got a chance to empower ourselves. Um, we had teachers who actually cared about us and who made sure that if we couldn't read well, they would stay over after school and help us to read well. They would go the extra mile. They would visit your parents and say, you're having an issue, we need to take care of your issue. And so they would ensure that every student was competitive and qualified. And I went to a segregated school early on. So we had a lot of segregation where we had white segregation and black segregation. And so we were always told that you had to be twice as good. You had to be 3 times as good. And so when we started to integrate, we went up to the white school.
Mhm.
And so all of the students were competitive. We were always as good as anybody else. And the thing about growing up in a little small all-black town is that you believe in yourself. And the process of success is the same for everyone. Everyone who is going to really be a great success and succeed very well has to believe in themselves.
It's the beginning.
They have to be courageous. A lot of times they have to really kind of know who they are. They have to be able to stand up for themselves. So in the growing up in a small community, we're able to stand up for ourselves and have our own voice and be confident in ourselves. And you get that at an early age. And that was the benefit of growing up in that community.
Perfect. I understand completely. I think it's really important to believe in yourself, and if you have a community that is focused on, creating strong children that can rely on themselves, I think that's what the world needs actually. um, but what if you grew up and you don't believe in yourself? I mean, if we sit around and wait to first believe in ourselves and then we can start and create success, then we can wait a long time probably.
Well, there's a saying, and it says that the law of the jungle says only the strong survive. So when I walked in here today, just a few minutes ago, all I see is strength.
Thank you.
This is a beautiful setting. This is strength. Beautiful people, strength. People who stand tall and carry themselves well, strength. So I know that your ability to achieve greatness is based on strength because you have to overcome a lot of different odds to get there.
Definitely.
And there's a process for strength. And you live in a world that really tries to marginalize your existence.
Mm-hmm.
when you're strong,
True.
because so many people are followers. They wake up in the morning, they wash their face, they brush their teeth, they get something to eat, they get the kids off to school, they work all day, they come home in the afternoon, they spend time with the family, they watch TV, they go to bed, maybe they dream that's Monday.
And then Tuesday.
Then on Tuesday, they repeat the same thing. They get up in the morning, wash their face, brush their teeth, they get something to eat, get the kids off to school, work all day, come home in the afternoon, spend time with the family, watch TV.
Who think this is
They
going
go to
too
bed.
fast?
Maybe they dream that's Tuesday. And on Wednesday, they do the same thing and do the same thing on Thursday. And then they go on Monday. Here comes Monday, and they get ready for work. And they will work for 40 years doing the same thing over and over every single day. If you did the same thing you did yesterday, as you will do today, as you will do tomorrow, what have you done? Nothing.
I
So
think you
pretty
said this
much-
before, right?
Right. Pretty much the world is average.
Yes. People are not consciously creating their lives.
Yeah. So the difference is what you're teaching here is leadership.
Mhm.
So how do you transform from a follower? Now we have Twitter, which allows you to follow more, and technology, which allows you to follow more. So everybody becomes a copycat because they have no thinking for themselves. They are followers. I call them slaves with a slave mentality, without the ability to be able, and they come in all kinds of colors and all kinds of shapes and all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of nationalities, right? Women, men, doesn't make any difference. And so the ability to be able to separate yourself from the average person, only the strong survive. Nobody cares about you being weak or average. They only care about your value. And the value that you give yourself is the value the world gives you. The world sees you as you see yourself. So when you raise the standards of this room and the people in the room, it raises the standards of your possibilities and your greatness. And it separates you from everybody else, and it makes you unique. There's a thing called branding that we utilize in business, and the value of your brand. You get paid by the value of your brand. And so that can be personal, that can be professional, that can be organizational. Is what is the brand?
Mm-hmm.
And what does the brand stand for? And how do you build value in that brand? Branding is not range, that's advertising.
Yes.
Branding is depth. How deep can you go to the core of who you are? And that principle applies to you whether you're in a personal, professional development process or you're in an organizational development process. How deep can you go to build value?
I think it's also an ongoing process. Many people nowadays, I see, that want to build a business, they have the feeling that they need to know now what the core and the strength of their brand is. But my experience is you start and you add more value and you upgrade whatever you do, and from there your brand gets more significant value.
Well, that's why I teach identity development, because identity development and identity leadership, which is really what I teach, is based on going deeper to find out what your purpose is and who you are and your skills and your talents and your abilities. And it's based on the philosophy, identity leadership is based on the philosophy that you can't lead anybody else until you can first lead yourself. So it becomes a process of self-mastery. How do you master yourself? And today it's a beautiful thing because we have this technology. And we're able to now, if we can learn how to do this, organize the resources, the information, education, and make it relevant to our core development. Is really the key to building value and creating a successful model. That model doesn't really exist for most of us because we're in a school system that is basically a system that doesn't teach us how to
Be different.
self-develop or be different.
Yeah.
It teaches us how to memorize, take tests, repeat the information back, get labeled with a grade, and 2 weeks later we forget the information.
Yeah,
So
and it
if you're
teaches
doing
us
this-
to make sure we fit in.
Yeah, so you fit in so you can be a
Yes.
worker.
Yeah.
So basically it's designed for you to work. Teach you how to be a good worker. not a good developer of yourself.
No.
So when it comes to self-empowerment, you're like average. You wonder why I'm just average. I have this degree. I don't know what to do. I just graduated from Stanford and Harvard, and I don't have a job. Because I'm looking for the outside world to determine my existence. That used to work okay when we had manufacturing and we had jobs for everybody.
We didn't want people to think.
We didn't want people to think. Just do what I tell you to do. And now the world says you have to be a thinker. You have to be a self-directed learner. You have to be a lifelong learner to keep up. And you have to know how to take information and education and make it relevant to your purpose, to your skills, to your life skills, to your talents, to your abilities. And then you have to self-actualize your working environment. You have to self-actualize what you do in order to be relevant to the 21st century. So you have 99% of the people, which would include probably about 6.9 billion people who are going backwards because they're lost, because they have no purpose, which is not tied to their skills, their passions, their abilities, right? So you can't self-actualize and be different, and they're asking for people to be different.
Yes, so it's a messed up world. So
It's not messed up.
but
It's disorganized when it comes to you because it's not relevant. It's outdated.
yes.
So the educational system's outdated. Okay.
No, it's okay. There's only one important question, because I know this is a big thing, not necessarily in this room, but all over the world with entrepreneurs. Many people talk about finding your purpose and finding your passion. Is it something that you can find, or is it actually like creating your purpose and just decide and act on it, and it will grow deeper and deeper on you? How would you say, if somebody's here, has a business, wants to create more success, doesn't really know what their purpose is?
I don't know how you do it today. Einstein said you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that caused it. So you're not even conscious of your ability to change because you think you're all of that. You think you have it all together. When in fact, you're in a situation where you're not learning anything because you think you just going to school and you went to school and I have my degree. And so I never really learned to learn because I'm just memorizing and I'm forgetting everything that I learned. So I don't know anything anyway. And I'm relying on my experiences, which are not that great. And I'm relying on people to tell me and show me, which nobody has any time for anymore. And so you're pretty much by yourself.
Which is a good thing, actually.
And so, I mean, that's what I do, is I teach people how to do it. And when I learned that there's a process for success, the success doesn't happen just because you want it to happen. You may have the drive and the willingness to want to do, but you don't have the process. You don't have the information because it's all backwards. And so providing that information on teaching people how to do that begins with the most powerful word in the world, which is purpose is love. So love is your key to self-expression. Love is your key to believing in yourself.
What is love, according to Stedman
Love
Graham?
is organizing things that you're passionate about. So it's making love practical. We all think of love as romantic love, and we are so passionate about the person. It's the same kind of feeling in a way that you're attracted to something that you care about. And you want to do well because you have that feeling. It's a feeling you're creating that comes from the heart and comes from the soul that you can transfer to the mind so you can think about how to create the experience.
Yes.
And build value in that. And so what is that? What is that? Well, that's being able to become conscious by writing everything down that you love, that you can imagine, that you care about.
Yeah, I think it's important to really become active. Many people are waiting to feel good or to feel passionate or to feel love, but nothing will happen if you just sit there and wait for stuff. So I do think it's important to, be out there in the world, act, and from there, create yourself as
And
as
I
a
think
person.
that's what you're doing. I think what you're doing is you're trying to empower people, with information so they become conscious of what's possible for them.
Yes.
Because right now they're unconscious, reacting to habits and reacting to the 24 hours that they have every day, which makes everyone equal. Everybody's got 24 hours, but what their habits are the same habits. You haven't changed.
Yeah.
And so you have to have a new consciousness about where you're going, which is why reading is so important. It's why learning is so important. It's why organizing information around your purpose is so important, because it gives you a foundation for growth and development.
Yeah.
So my life changed personally when I was able to learn.
Okay.
And I became a reader. I mean, I've written a number of books, but I read one book in high school. And I'm working on my 12th book. And it's because I said, oh my goodness, I played basketball. I was a basketball player. I wasn't interested in education.
In Europe, basketball player in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I realized, oh my goodness, you mean you can be educated? I mean, you can actually read something and write it down on a piece of paper and organize it, and then you can apply the information to your life, to your business.
Yeah, that's
to-
the key.
That's
Many
the
people
key.
read, many people know a lot of stuff, but the key is obviously in applying it.
So I adopted cognitive behavior therapy, which is be aware of what's around you, organize the information, apply it every day, and figure out how to make it relevant to what you love, so you're engaged in yourself. You know yourself first. And you can create self-empowerment based on your learning ability, and begin to organize and segment your life in every area of your life, which is health, family, relationship, hobbies, spirituality, travel, food, and then visualize who you want to become in those areas.
Yeah.
And then work on that process every day to develop a process of continuous improvement, where you become better today than you were yesterday, and you can predict your outcome over a period of years.
And that's what you mean with it works backward. You visualize who you want to be in the different areas.
Right.
It's actually exactly the same as we tell people. And from there, you start actually creating yourself as that particular person, right?
You create and shape and determine your own future
Yes.
by organizing the resources of the world and making those resources relevant to your purpose, to your passions, to your skills, and that's who you are. And it's either, you only have two choices. It's either good or bad, will or won't, can or can't, looking at the glass half empty or half full. So every day you're either going to choose love, I love myself, I care about myself, I'm going to develop myself, or you choose, I'm so sad today, I'm such a victim, I don't like myself today, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not motivated. Only one or the other.
It's true, but I think the power in this is the word choose. People think they need to feel empowered and they need to feel strong, but you actually say you choose to, create yourself as powerful or to create yourself as a victim. I think that's the main thing that people need to realize. It's a choice.
It's a choice every day if you're conscious of the choice.
Yes.
And if you can create the choices.
And how do
so
you
we're
become
saying
conscious?
we want to create all of the choices. We want to, on the vision board, put all of the choices and opportunities we have, so we become conscious of that. And then we want to apply all of the resources to those choices, so that we have lots of ways to micromanage those things that we care about and those things that we love and that we enjoy. That makes us happy.
Thank you. I'm going to give the mic to our awesome audience. Is there somebody that has a burning question? Jules, where are you? Oh, there. Here, Joyce.
Okay.
So before we go on, is there somebody that says, okay, this was going really fast. I'm going to do it a little bit in Dutch. Weet je, dit ging heel snel. Kun je iets vertalen? Kun je me iets meegeven? Is er iemand die zegt, wow? Nee? Iedereen is mee? Super. Okay. Everybody is still with us. This is a
Okay,
good sign.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Joyce.
Hi, Stedman.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I have a question about what is the most important lesson you've learned from children or students? What impacted?
I think
Good question.
I think the most important thing I've learned is that from children. I mean, we were at a house yesterday. We invited to this family's home, and their daughter was 9 years old, and she plays the piano. And she played the first song. We thought she was going to play one. She was so good, we asked her to play another song. And then she played another song. And then she played another song. And then she played another song with, and our mother started crying because every time the little girl plays this song, she starts to cry. And Charles and John and Joseph and I, we were just amazed by this young girl who was so good at what she does. And she's only 9. And she's been playing the piano 2 years. And so I was taking some notes on a napkin, and I just realized she had a great coach, which means there's a process for being great. You have to be coached. You have to be trained to do that. And that traditional training, our mother and father, obviously, I mean, they're very successful people, but they're able to pass down excellence and also pass down a process for success. And so it just reinforced the fact that you got to get the information from someplace. What I learned is that with young people early on, you have to give them the right process, give them the right information. And then if you can give them the right information, they will practice that early on because they're hungry and they're starving for attention, and their neurons and everything else is so active. They're so smart and they absorb so much at an early age. And so I just realized that if you could take that same process and apply that to people all over the world, that you can impact a lot of people at an early age. So it really starts young. And the younger you start, the more opportunities they have to be successful.
Thank you, Joyce. Next.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I want to ask you something about your relationship with Oprah.
Uh-huh.
I know she is a spiritual leader, the same like you. Who are you in the relationship with her, and who is she? Hoe zeg je dat? Hoe ben je naar elkaar? What is your identity? How do you speak
Towards
to
each
her?
other. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think everyone has a relationship, or father, mother. How?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is, I mean, that's part of what has made me who I am, is being in a relationship with a very powerful woman, and who is one of the most powerful women in the world, or people in the world, not just a woman, one of the most powerful people in
Very
the world.
good.
And who is a great influencer, one of the greatest communicators in the world, and having to basically stay in the background. And when you walk in someplace, throughout the years, people say, well, I'm not really interested in you. I'm only interested in Oprah. And being defined by that everywhere you go a lot of times. So people don't know your name. They just think that you're Oprah's man. And then having to be used a lot of times by newspapers and tabloids and everything else to showcase, have stories made up about you to sell papers, and utilizing her. And to be able to basically not have an identity for yourself. And to also be in the women's empowerment zone where, she's focused on empowering women, and you become somewhat the poster boy for all of that. So you kind of have to survive on your own based on all of that, all over the world. And so it really lends itself to the fact that you have to know who you are. You have to be sure of your identity. And the lessons from that is that it's not how the world defines you, it's how you define yourself. Otherwise, I couldn't teach this. And so there's a process for that. So through all of this, through being defined by race in a little small town, being defined by my family, with 2 disabled brothers, being defined by my relationship, I've had some experiences on understanding how to take your power back. And being able to know that the world defines you when you can't define yourself. It defines you by your house, your car, your money, your title, your job. It defines you by your religion. It defines you by your race. It defines you by your gender and tells women you can't make it because it's a man's world. It defines you by your entitlements. You think you're all of that. It defines you by all of those things and puts you in a box and labels you. And if you buy into the socially constructed design program, which is designed to control you and also marginalize your existence as a human being, then that's when I got you. You drank the Kool-Aid. And when you drank the Kool-Aid, you thought you were, all of that, and that's not who you are. You're not somebody's, this or somebody that. You're not a label. You are who you are. And you have to work on that every day, and you have to be able to take your power back, because whoever you let define you will always define you as less than them. So you can't let your parents define your existence. You can't let your partner define your existence. You can't let you can't be defined by your gender. You can't be defined by your religion. You can't be defined by your race. None of that. You have to be able to have the tools to define yourself and work on yourself every single day so you can share that experience. What makes our lives happy is that she is who she is and I am who I am. And the combination is what's powerful. I'm in Amsterdam, I'm in the Netherlands, I'm in Holland, I'm in China, I'm all over the world teaching folks. I've got programs in the schools, that makes me happy. She's magazines, television, movies, I'm happy for you. It has nothing to do with my happiness. But when you bring the happiness together, we can enjoy the life that we both have.
I think it's important to realize, I watched obviously a lot of interviews of you, and one thing that you always say is, if you know who you are, you can be the same person when you're with the President of the United States or when you're with a homeless person on the streets. And I think that's, to go back to your question, you are Stedman Graham sitting here, but it's the same person sitting next to Oprah on the couch.
To me, I am who I am. And so I'm the same regardless of who I'm around. That's just stuff. That's just, okay, great. But that has nothing to do with who I am. And so the beautiful thing about it is all of us are basically the same. Different circumstances, different environment, different parents. You live in a different place. If you were born in a small town in a poor country, your life might have been different.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, you had the parents that you had, and you had the social economic development. They had the social economic development to give you a good education and make a good living so that you could be all you could possibly be. In a different country, you wouldn't have this kind of support. You wouldn't have free health care sometime and free education in a different environment. So we should be very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate to live in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy. I think America is a fantastic place to live, and a lot of people are trying to get there. And Holland is a great place to live. It's beautiful here, and the trees and
So green,
it's so green, and the people are so
kind, and beautiful.
beautiful. And so that's a luxury.
I know.
And that's not to be taken for granted. You don't take that for granted. That you can go and have water on the table and have flowers on the table and have a big beautiful building and food and access to so many things. And so when you don't have that and that's pulled away, then you realize, oh, you're one of the fortunate ones, but you could be just like, you could be homeless on the street.
Yeah, or
You could be begging.
you can, get yourself into circumstances like our amazing friend Joseph, who was, stripped away.
Just
from
stripped
everything.
away.
Yes. Yes, and who are you then?
Yeah, who are you then? So that's the point. The point is you're left with who you are. Once it's stripped away, then you're really left with who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that really matters is self and self-mastery, your ability to be the same person regardless of your circumstances.
Oprah would say, that's a tweetable moment. Okay, next question. Joost.
Hello. What's your purpose in life? And is there something you still want to achieve? There's a thing in your life that you did yet to help people?
Yeah, well, my purpose is to establish identity education in schools all around the world as a way to teach people how to find out who they are and develop a purpose for them. And I'm in the schools, so right now I have curriculum in the schools. I train parents, teachers, and students. And so the ability to put that into schools where there's an organized collective consciousness of people allows me to systemically deliver the right kind of information when it comes to career development, when it comes to social economic development, when it comes to equality. And so systemically, what does that look like? So for me, it's really working to try to get the message out and start that process and organize partners and develop alliances, and use technology as a way to deliver content to people who are less fortunate or who are fortunate, who are still stuck in a box and are not self-actualizing their potential, even though they may have a lot of money. They just have a lot of money, but they still don't know who they are. And so the ability to be able to make an impact that way is my dream and my purpose.
So you're living the dream.
Every day.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Rianne.
So very briefly, I would like to go to a specific job you had. I read that before you were doing all this, you've worked as a prison guard, which I think is a very interesting world because it's so different than what we're used to. And I was just wondering how was this period of time for you? Did you see some things that you brought to what it is that you're doing now, and what did it teach you to be working there?
The prison guard, I spent 5 years working working for the prison system, not in the prison system, but working for the prison system. And it was some of the greatest experiences that I had, because in the prison system, there's no middle ground. You got 1,000 prisoners that you are around, and every day in their cell, they're trying to figure out how to manipulate you or how to threaten you or take you out. And so it is the greatest lesson in terms of people skills that I know. And you have to have your antenna up, 5 miles, and always be aware of everything around you. Because, I've been in 2 riots, where people were stabbed. And when someone's stabbed in a riot and people are cutting you and they're trying to kill the other person, there's a noise that comes with that. And there's a screams that comes with that you never forget. And so though all of those experiences and all the personal experiences I've had are lessons for me in life lessons that I carry for all of my life to help me kind of navigate the 21st century and navigate where I am. And without them, you wouldn't be where you are today. It's impossible. So it's just part of the journey. I want to. I'm on this tour with Charles Ruffalo and Joseph and also John. I just want to thank them very much for, especially Joseph. I understand he's a part of this.
He's the reason you're here.
Yeah, so I want to thank him very much and those guys. Okay. Yeah.
I do absolutely think that there.
He's got a great story.
Yeah, I know for sure that there are a lot of people that didn't know that Joseph would be here also today, so they're really happy.
Unbelievable gentleman. He is just so impressive. He's speaking Arabic and French and Dutch and Spanish, and I mean, just really amazing, and such a gentleman, and such a has such a great spirit. The spirit thing is huge.
Tell us.
That's why love is so important, because I feel your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you feel, and the same thing with Charles and John, when you feel your spirit, I can feel who you are. So to be able to develop a sweet spirit, and then when you get somebody that's angry, and anger really destroys, and anger eliminates your options, because nobody wants to deal with anger. When they see anger, they run, which is why humility is so very important, is you have to be humble as opposed to having the ego. Oh, I think I'm all of that. Well, when you think you're all of that, it's like closed fists. Nothing can get in and nothing can get out. But when you're open,
everything can come in.
Everything can come in. And you can get along with everybody. And you're not threatening when you're open.
I do think it's important to specify what you mean by humble, because it doesn't mean making yourself smaller, like many people think.
It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you have the strength to overcome. Because I'm just going to watch you kind of self-destruct because you are just all over the place, and your energy is so tight, and you're not relaxed, and you're really not comfortable with yourself. And I feel that. I pick that up. So when you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable, which is why purpose is so important. Because when you have a purposeful life and you have a meaningful life, and you really care about what you do, you're kind of in the zone, and you can relax with it, and you can go with the flow of the universe, and it empowers you because you're in the right space. You can create this alignment for where you want to be and how you're going to get there, and you attract goodness around you. So the law of attraction says whatever you put out, you get back.
Yeah. Thank you. Next question.
Good morning. Actually, I have two questions. Maybe just continuing on the previous one. We were more discussing how you should change internally, but if you were the minister responsible for prisons, what would you change to the prison system to have a more meaningful stay in a prison?
Okay.
He's asking you if you were the director, is that director?
Well,
CEO
the
of
prison
prison
system, yeah,
yes.
what would I change? Yeah.
Well, probably you would live your purpose there.
Yeah, I think, and that's a great question. I think, I've worked in the prison system where I've gone back and worked with halfway houses and all of that. They just have it all wrong. They're not bad people a lot of times. They're just misdirected. So they're not focused on love. They're focused on, a lot of times, fear.
Yeah.
And they don't know the process of success. So they want money. So sometimes they steal it, or they have to, do it a different way, a negative way. They don't feel good about themselves. So if you look at their records, I worked in the educational department eventually in the prison system in Chicago, became a supervisor of education. And what happens, you look in their records and, you know, their father beat them up. I mean, I had one story where the father would come home at night and he'd be drunk, come home, wake his kid up, knock on the door, get up, and he'd hang him on the back of the door. This is where you're going to sleep tonight. So when you have that kind of pain, then you're mad and you're angry. And then what you do is it becomes an outward behavior where now you're just self-actualizing the pain that you have, which is so hardwired that you can't even see success until you become conscious of that. So what I would do is I would try to redirect people's passion and their talents and abilities, and then show them how to find out who they are, focus on love as a way to self-actualize their potential, the same process, and then give them a different way of living, and show them how to do that. Now, the ability to sustain that is having that in written material, be able to execute that, maybe have some coursework, but that certainly is the same process for them as it is for us to be successful.
Yeah, I think, you know, at the core of, you say there's a lot of anger and they're mad. At the core, there's obviously a lot of fear. I mean, if you're a young kid and your father hangs you at the door and to sleep there, you must be afraid. You know, that must be the thing that's going on for the rest of your life. So, probably it's important to create it like sort of a safe environment and have them recreate themselves. Yeah.
Right. So if you're in a terrible environment and you're dealing with fear every day,
which is the prison system. I mean, that's a fearful environment.
As a young child, how do you get rid of that?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do it becomes hardwired into your system.
Yep.
So the only way that you can deal with that is you have to have enough happy experiences so that pain doesn't become a design for your life. Success does. So that's why you want to create all these happy experiences for your own children and for your own self and have a great environment so that success becomes a design for their life as opposed to negativity.
Thank you. I think you had 2 questions, Mario. Is that correct?
Yes, the second one was actually, you probably understand very well, given your relation with opera, that the media can make you or break you. On the other hand, you said you need to filter out what's necessary for you. So what's your suggestion to go along with the social media if you just want to have and find yourself or find out who you are?
Like how to deal
Turn
with
it off.
social media or?
How to go along with social media and filter out what's really important for you.
So the social media, wow, it's such a great opportunity.
Yes.
It can make or break you, number one. Secondly, it's a communication channel to really get people to pay attention to you. It's only a short amount of time.
Wow, yes.
So you may have 20 million followers, but 20 million followers are going to go on social media, and they aren't really going to do anything, so it's not actionable. It's just for basically attention for the most part, except in maybe some cases. But social media is a great way to kind of organize and disseminate and also scale your purpose and your passion and your skills. So it's a great branding tool.
Definitely.
And to find out who you are. So the thing about branding is that if you're using social media as a branding tool, you don't want to do that 5 or 6 times. Every time you look around, you're a different brand. Every time you look around, you're doing something differently or saying something differently about yourself. So it really took me 20 years to find identity and identity leadership. And otherwise, I was utilizing the 9 steps as a way to describe what I do. Well, by the time someone would, figure out what the 3rd step is, they go back, what was the 1st step again? So branding is a big thing because it allows you to scale your message.
Yeah.
And if people ask you what you do, and they say, well, what do you do? I say, I teach identity development. I teach people how to find out who they are. Well, that's, I said that in about less than five seconds or 3 seconds. And so that allows you, that message is a message, which allows you now to do what? Scale that message consistently through social media all over the world.
Yeah, the key here is consistently.
It's consistency.
Definitely.
And clarity. Are you clear on your message, and are you clear on what you do? It's the reason why probably Hillary Clinton lost the election. It's because she didn't have a clear message on what she wanted the people to know about what she was going to do. What represents you? What's your purpose? And even though you have a lot of money, if you miss that message today, social media kills you.
Kills you, yeah. But do you think if you know who you are, the message is always clear, right?
If you know who you are, you have to really work on focusing, whatever you focus on expands, focusing on being very clear on what is it you want the people to know about who you are.
Your public identity.
Public identity, what you want them to know about your organization, your company, because branding is critical. I'm only going to pay attention to the brand. I'm going to spend about 5 seconds on it. You're going to tell me quickly what you do, and that's it. So we were somewhere, Charles and I were somewhere the other day, and we were listening to somebody, and he was talking about his company. He went on and on and on and on. And I'm sitting there saying, oh my goodness, when is he going to stop talking?
He lost me a long time ago.
And he lost me a long time ago. So you have to be clear on who you are. People don't have the time, and you have to be very concise about what you want to say in a short amount of time. Even courses now, if you develop courses around this, they have to be micro courses, they have to be short courses, they have to be impactful, and people want them in short bites. They don't want this big narrative. Even the books now become smaller and smaller.
That's true. Yeah. So you have a company where you're a consultant regarding marketing and branding, or I don't think you're.
I have an education company, and we market and brand our own products and programs.
So what are if you have like 2 or 3, tips, what would you say is really important to get to the core of your brand or to create your brand? Because that's what's necessary.
Yeah. I think that the most important thing is to have a major brand of what you do at the top. And then to be able to create verticals, where you have the different things that relate to your brand. For instance, I'm an identity is maybe the overall brand for me, okay? People know me by that, trying to teach people how to find out who they are. And under that, you have different programs for that. So you may have programs for schools, you may have a different brand, you may have various alliances and ways to distribute. Distribution is everything. So you have the brand. The question is how you distribute the message in the marketplace to a communication channel. And then how do you develop product and programs, and how do you use technology as a way to deliver content all over the world. So again, it goes back to, are you clear on the message? So you don't have to keep changing the message all of the time.
It starts with the core then.
Starts with
the
the
core
core.
is identity.
And then from the core, you can diversify your opportunities. So from the core so the core is here, and then everything comes into the core. And then through that core, you're developing, it's kind of the incubator, or it's like the manufacturing place or the laboratory. We're now inside the laboratory. Once it comes into that core, you bring all the messages into that, the resources and the opportunities. You're now going back to the laboratory to figure out exactly what you want to put out in the world.
Yes.
And then through the world, you're not just going to put it out all over the place. You're going to put it out in segmentations, in channels. So you're going to channel your opportunity. So for me, it's working in the youth marketplace. Youth marketplace is huge. How big is that? That's millions and millions and millions and millions of people around the world. What focus do you have when it comes to youth? Well, you got middle school, you got elementary school, you got middle school, you got high school. You have, and you're in the education business. You have community colleges. You have colleges. You have social service organizations. So all of those, you have Boy Scouts, you have Girl Scouts,
Sports
you got
clubs,
Big
yeah.
Brothers, Big Sisters. So what you're doing is you're segmenting product and courses that are relevant to that particular market, still around identity development.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, you haven't changed your core.
But it starts with you say, you know, you don't want to switch every single time or every couple of months. We have a distinction in our book. It says stopping versus stopping. Just, you know, choose something, take a stand for it, and continue. Where in your life did you like really chose to take a stand for identity and creating an identity?
It's an evolve. It doesn't happen all at one time. You evolve toward. So, I mean, life is a journey. You know, it's not a destination. So, vision is out here, but once you achieve your vision, then you create another vision and another vision. But it's a process of learning how to do it. It's like putting a puzzle together. You know, I look at it like, here are all of the pieces, which is why I like to visualize all the things I want to do in my life and all the things I want to become in my life. And I create them on my vision board. And then I just put all of the information here. And so you're going back and you're trying to figure out how to take all of the pieces of the puzzle and put them together so they paint the picture. And it takes a long time to do that.
Yes, but it's important to acknowledge that, because people think that, you know, you have to create yourself and your brand in this very instant, like in this moment, and from there everything happens. But it's my experience that everything, like success and all the things that people want, come with creating that identity over and over and over again.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
It's true.
So you have to take the small steps. There are no big deals. No such thing as a big deal. A big deal happens when it's a series of small steps when you put it together. So a step by step by step by step by step. And then what happens, it all comes together. Now you could do a documentary.
Yeah.
Now you can do a tour. Now you can do, because you put all of the pieces in place.
You
So
have
it
to do
takes
the work.
years to learn how to prepare yourself. Success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
The key word is preparation. Are you prepared for where you want to go?
Yeah.
Have you done the groundwork?
Exactly.
Have you put in the effort to be able to be in the position to do what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's also the problem with social media nowadays, or the times that we live in. People want instant success instead of, you know, doing the work every single day. It's
an opportunity for us who say, you know what, we're going to dig deep.
Yes.
We're going to be very clear. We're going to do our homework. We're going to spend a lot of time building the infrastructure, and we're going to spend a lot of time building the foundation, right? So we can take this anywhere in the world. Now, it took me I worked 3 years just on mind mapping. Just on website development, mind mapping, and we haven't even started the process of going to a worldwide market. But what we have done is worked on trying to figure out what it looks like. It's easy to get the participation, at least for me, you know, because I'm kind of thrown out there. So I have a nice network.
Yeah.
But being able to direct that and organize that, I have to be very clear on who I'm bringing in, what I'm presenting, who am I talking to, what the presentation is going to be, how do we work together to build a win-win situation. So you want to have the clarity before you go into the meeting.
Yeah.
So that the deal that you cut and the time that you put into that meeting is not wasted, because you already can predict the outcome because you know what they need.
What they need, that's
What
an
they
important
need.
one, instead of you
Right.
show up
Right.
with...
So it becomes a win-win situation because you add value to that meeting. You add value to who they are.
Perfect. We have 12 minutes left. Definitely new people can ask questions. There's only one thing that I want to do in first. It's important to us. We always look for, how do the leaders of this world like think, but also how do they live? And one of the things you say is that something that we all have in common is that we all have 24 hours in a day. Nobody has less, nobody has more. So I am really curious about how do your 24 hours look like? Do you have certain morning rituals, or do you have a certain structure that's really important to, to live by every single day? Do you sleep? Not so many hours, probably. Most leaders don't sleep that much. I'm just interested in that, and I know many people are. So.
Well, you're right. You have 24 hours. And so what I try to do is I try to focus on visualizing what I'm going to do with my 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a very interesting thing because people basically start with the now. They say now is important. Now is only important to me when you can visualize where you want to go. So you can figure out what to do now.
What to do now, exactly, yeah.
And so you're not just led by the moment, mm-hmm. that you can organize the day around things that are important based on long-term thinking. So your success in life is going to be based on where you want to go in the future, not where you are now. Mm-hmm. I know where you are now. I could care less about that. Tell me who you want to become. Tell me who you're going to be, and then show me the process of how you're going to get there. So for me, my day-to-day existence is based on my vision for myself in the future, mm-hmm. which I'm 5 years out. I'm 10 years out of what kind of lifestyle I want to create for myself.
And do you visualize that every morning when you step out of bed, or how does it work?
No, I'm working on it. Mm-hmm. So I'm working on it all the time to create the structure for the life I want to have. What does that look like in terms of family, in terms of relationship, in terms of health, in terms of all of that, mm-hmm. so that I can be able to write down every day mm-hmm. what I have to do to get there. And so you're backing up way back here. Now, the gap is here. The gap is, this is where you want to go. This is where you are. This is the gap. Mm-hmm. So how do I fill in the gap? And how do I utilize my day? And how do I develop a win-win situation with other people to help me, including my staff and operations, to help me maximize that day based on what needs to be done?
Like certain rituals or certain things that you do. I mean, if you travel all over the world,
yeah,
most people have like little things that.
That's a great question. So the little things are, number one, that you have to be consistent on, is you have to have a healthy diet, number mm-hmm. one, because you can't. I got 2 million miles on one airline, 1 million on another, so you can't travel like this and eat sweets. Even though I'm done pretty good this week, I've had cherry pie and apple pie here and a few things.
In Holland, no sweets.
I've been on no bread, no sweets for probably 2 months. Okay. And so I really get back on my routine when I get back. And once in a while I'll break it, but I try to get back to that.
Yeah.
So number one, nutrition. Okay. And that's a daily
it's
awareness.
Very important, yes.
Very aware of that. And I'm okay, but I'm not great. But I'm trying to work on that every day to be better. Secondly, workout. Mm-hmm. So that has to be part of your routine.
Do you do that every single day? Or?
No, whenever you can.
Okay.
But you have to balance. You have to balance water, and tea, and nutrition, mm-hmm. and also workout with that whenever you can. Mm-hmm. Right. The second part of that is the passion is what drives you. Mm-hmm. So when you have passion and purpose, that's your energy. So that energizes you. So I'm so excited about my work. I really don't want to sleep. I want to stay up as long as I possibly can just to get my work done.
Yes.
But, I enjoy the other things. I especially enjoy like being in Holland and watching those trees line up, in a row, and that energizes me. We were in Burden yesterday. Burden.
Bergen?
Where were we?
Buren? Buren.
Burden.
Buren.
Burden.
Yes.
Uh,
Very good.
Yeah, yesterday. So I mean, that was great. The mayor took us around and showed us the city, the small town, and all of that. It's so energizing. It's so beautiful. So getting close to nature is kind of a vision, and it gives you strength and all that. So anything that you can do on a daily basis that's
To
going to help you
nurture
be
yourself.
stronger. Only the strong survive. So you can be consistent in your work and the development. Work-life balance is long-term. It's not short-term.
Okay.
So you got to create that in the process.
Yeah. I think work-life balance is a very interesting subject. If I look at my own life, there is no work and life. There's, my life and my work are...
Lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah.
so, I always think it's weird if people struggle with that a lot. But okay. Is there somebody that has a burning question? Jules? Ja. Ik moest je even zoeken. Carmen.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
How are you?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just interested. A sentence you just said is there is a process of being good, and in that process you have to be coached. I just curious, who was your coach or
question.
who was your leader before you became a leader?
Great question. I've had a lot of leaders in my life and a lot of influences in my life. I mean, really, your success is about relationships. Relationships are so big. And when you're in business, just because you have a business and a nice brochure doesn't mean you're going to get business.
Definitely not.
It's because somebody gives you business. And it's based on whether or not people like you. Are you likable? And so you have to, number one, work hard to build the relationships, because mentors don't pick mentors. Mentors pick you. And they pick you they pick you out, and they say, you know what? I've been watching you. I like you. And I'm going to pick you out. And I'm going to help you. And there's a saying that no one makes it alone. No man or woman is an island unto themselves. So I've been very fortunate. I'm not the smartest or the strongest or, all of that. But I try to do the best I could possibly do. And so, and that's been a great way for me to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, I
So
mean, everybody here in this room knows what kind of people you have met. I mean, you even stayed at Nelson Mandela's house. I mean, what?
10 days.
Yes, I know.
Right. Oprah and
Is he then one of the biggest leaders and coaches, or is there maybe somebody that we don't know anything about that made the biggest impact on your
to
life?
go back to the question, it really is about, Nelson Mandela, to be at his house for 10 days and to be sitting in his study like me and you are right now and talking, is a great thing.
I know, I don't know, but I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I'm even wearing
But
a watch that is
he's
made for Nelson
he's
Mandela.
still a person.
Yes, true.
And he has flaws like everybody else, and he has greatness like everybody else, and he's the same as everybody else. And he's has the resilience to be able to be. One of the greatest freedom stories in the world is Nelson Mandela, where you've been in prison for 27 years. And actually, I was in the cell with Nelson Mandela. He's in the same cell that he was in for 27 years. I'm standing right next to him, through this visit. And so Oprah and I were traveling around with him, safari, and all that's great. But when it comes down to, it still comes down to knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, you're happy with what you do, and you have your own purpose. That is the foundation for everything. And then what happens when you have your own purpose, when you come in contact with someone, anybody, it doesn't make any difference who it is, you grab something from them.
Yeah.
So when I walked in here, I grabbed this. I said, man, this is a beautiful room. Man, you got all of this laid out.
We have an amazing brand director.
And so I became conscious of that. So I picked up that. So you and your team becomes a role model for me. What did I learn today? I learned that. So for me, it was mentorship is learning, taking a little bit from everybody else and applying that to my own life, just like I take information and make it relevant to who I am. And so that's the power of travel and meeting people and having experiences and everything else and being able to make that applicable to your own life. And I've had that same experience with the people all over the world, whether it's Colin Powell or whoever it is, or it's Oprah, and she is an extraordinary woman who's done extraordinary things and still doing extraordinary things. I learned so much from her. So I'm just fortunate to have all of these good people around me to be able to impact my life, but they are no different than anybody else. It's a homeless person on the street you can learn from because they're out there selling every day. They show up for work. They're on that corner every morning, and they're working every single day, all day long, asking for what? Asking to, would you help support me? But they're working. And sometimes they're selling a newspaper or whatever, but they're working. And so you take that work ethic and you say, oh my goodness gracious, if they're out there every day,
And I can do what I need to do
I
every
can
day.
certainly be out there every day doing what I'm doing.
Thank you. One question. And I'm not going to be the one.
She's had her hand up right
You
here
got
for a
some.
while. Yeah.
Jules? Ja, hier vooraan. Ik weet niet wie de hand omhoog... Ah, oké. Doe maar even omhoog, dan kan Jules je zien. Die lampen hier zijn een stuk feller in je ogen dan het lijkt vanuit die kant, denk ik.
Hi, I have a question on the subject of identity.
Yes.
I help people find, discover, create, and tell their story, which is about identity, of course.
Yes.
What I see happen in the world is there is so much information. We are overloaded with information.
Yes.
Which makes it hard to decide what we want or who to choose. And the most successful companies and most successful people are the ones telling authentic story, who know who they are and why they are here. I was wondering if you recognize that and if you see what do you see happening in the world, why stories and identities become even more important?
If I understand your question, there's a lot of information in the world today. People are overloaded, and so that is a major issue because you're not focused, and you're focused also on the external world to take up your time. And the most important thing that you have is your time. Who takes your time? And all you have is your time. You have your time and your feelings. And so to be able to, again, have some clarity around who you are allows you to organize your time and allows you also to be able to organize the information. There could not be a greater time in the world today than now to be able to self-actualize and reach your potential. Couldn't have a better time. Because we have access to information we can download in about 6 seconds. Anywhere. We can ask the iPhone anything and it will give us the information.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, how are you using the information to empower yourself and empower others? And this is about the other people. We were kind of talking about this earlier. It's about servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And servant leadership can only happen when you serve yourself first. So you can't serve anybody else or you can't lead anybody else until you first lead yourself.
Yeah, I think in many cases, to lead yourself, for many people, there needs to be an information diet. Like, stop looking for extra information and start looking internal.
So when you segment your life, when you organize your life, then you can compartmentalize the information. You can segment the information. So information becomes real valuable when you can organize it and you can download it and you can scale it into a certain segment that allows you to empower that segmentation or that focus, because you have all of the information that's relevant to excellence, performance, and productivity.
So you say first break down the different areas of your life.
Right.
Like relationships, health, business,
Right.
spirituality.
Everything. Hobbies, nutrition, medical, anything that is relevant to your empowerment. And then to segment that information, and then to organize a library, okay, of information, whether it's using technology as a way to organize it, download the articles, so you get the best information possible.
Yeah, eventually it obviously comes down to, pick one thing, because we can organize, or we can focus on the segment nutrition, but we all know in this room how many different forms of diets, nutritions, and health specialists there are. At a certain point, you just need to pick and stick with it.
Yeah, and then find out what's relevant to you. What do you
Yes.
like?
Yes.
And what do you...
Chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate, yeah. So fantastic.
I'm a woman.
But, for me, it was having some awareness about the meaning, about fruit. So I have a sweet tooth, so I love cakes and pies and all of that. But a lot of times when you have a sweet tooth, instead of having a pie or a cake or some candy or whatever, you just have some fruit.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, so that's an awareness thing. So it changes you a little bit, and then you're able to drink more water as opposed to, drinking soda, so you eliminate soda. So it's a process, it's a journey over a long period of time to get the information. We have the information. To organize the information that's relevant to your development, that will empower you as a person, that makes you stronger, right? That builds more value in your life, right? So that the value that you give yourself is the value the world gives you. And then the more you have, the more you can give back to others. And you can perpetuate that same information based on content. So the content is very important. If I want to keep you at a lower level, let's dumb down the content. Let's make sure you're not educated. Let's make sure you don't have good teachers. Make sure you don't have good information. So again, we have a lot of information that's not
Really relevant to any
and
part
that's
of our
not
lives. Yeah.
maybe true, and a thing called fake news now that's not real.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful about the information. You have to make sure that information is relevant to your development.
I think it's also very important to be to create yourself as extremely disciplined, because social media and the media itself is pulling every single day, every moment of the day. So you do have to be disciplined to, first of all, I think it's a good one to compartmentalize your life, and from there decide which information do I need, and from there utilize the information, because we can learn until we die and don't do anything with what we learn.
Which I think is a reason why identity is so important.
Yeah.
And to have a purpose and a mission and a passion for what you're doing, so you're clear on what to eliminate in terms of time wasters.
Yeah, you also have to
Eliminate
say
all the things
where
that are
to say
not
no.
relevant to your empowerment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's not only knowing which information is relevant, but also where to say no.
Right.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you so much for everybody that wants to ask Stedman a personal question or wants to get a picture with him. The time is now. Well, within a minute or so.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you
A
so
big
much.
round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.